The Art of Leadership Network.
Hey leaders, welcome to the Lead Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jenni Catron, founder and CEO of the Foresight Group, where we cultivate healthy leaders to lead thriving teams. This podcast is for leaders who want more than good intentions. You want clarity, confidence, and practical tools to lead well in the real world. Each week, I'll help you navigate the challenges of leadership and culture with insights that you can actually put into practice. We'll explore what it takes to lead yourself well, because how you show up shapes everything, from your decisions to your team's health and momentum. So my goal is to equip you to lead with purpose, strengthen your culture, and create environments where people and organizations flourish. You'll hear honest conversations, real stories, and proven frameworks, along with insights from leaders committed to doing the work of leading well. Whether you're leading a team, an organization, or just simply choosing to grow as a leader, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Friends, today I want to dig into a conversation around how to lead culture from wherever you sit. This is one of the most common questions that I get is people who are saying, hey, I am not in the most senior leadership seat, but I really care about culture. I want to influence culture. How do I do it? And then I'll hear from senior leaders who say, I can influence culture a lot, but if other people don't embrace it, I want everybody on my team to recognize that they're a culture champion. So this episode is for all of you. Right? This episode is how do we be a culture champion from whatever seat that we're in? Because here's the reality. Culture is shaped by every person on the team. Everybody has influence on the environment that we're creating. This is why when there's a person on the team that just drains the life out of you, you avoid them. This is why I literally had somebody who refused to go to certain meetings because they didn't like other people that were in the room. And I was like, that's not an option, right? That's not an option. We have to be able to work together. So if that's an issue, then we've got to work to resolve it. So every one of us is shaping culture, whether we're acknowledging it or not. And my hope today is to give you some things that you can do to be a culture champion, some behaviors that really are things that every person on an unstoppable team embodies. So I'm going to fly through these a little bit. Sometimes when I'm teaching these in a keynote, I will spend a lot more time. So in fact, if you're somebody who is looking for a keynote speaker to come and speak to your entire staff on culture, I'm your girl. I would love to do that. Speaking is one of the places that I've been putting a lot more energy and emphasis. I love helping get in front of leaders to help them understand how they shape culture. And so this talk I will often do to an entire staff, and I'll deep dive on each of these 5 culture building behaviors that I'm going to share with you today. For today, I'm going to do a flyover, just kind of a quick flyover to get you thinking about the things that you could do to help shape your culture. And the first one is this. I need you to believe that people are the point. I need you to believe that people are the point. Anybody here just a get it done person? I love to mark through a good checklist and get stuff done. Well, that's most of us. Most of us, now I wouldn't say most of us. Many of you are people. But a lot of us, especially in work, feel a significant accomplishment in getting stuff done, right? That's part of the reason we're there. And what can happen sometimes, especially as we move into more positions of leadership and influence, is that we focus on the task instead of focusing on the people. But the reality is that people are the point. The people that we get to work with are extraordinarily important to the work that we do. And so I had a leader years ago when I was in my very task-focused, kind of bulldozing everybody around me era of leadership. That was a younger version of me that I hope is mostly retired. But there's an era of leadership where I was just bulldozing because I wanted to make things happen. I wanted to get things done. And I had a leader who said to me, Jenni, if you want to work with people, you have to learn to love them, to lead them. Guys, probably one of the single most critical things that I have learned in my leadership journey is the power of seeing people, investing in people. That conversation triggered my deep love for leadership. I got my hands on my first John Maxwell book. I devoured it. I learned that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And then I looked at that word influence and discovered that influence means the power to change or affect someone. And I said, whew, like we can change or affect people for good, or we can change and affect people for bad. And I remembered those leaders' words that, Jenni, you've got to love people to lead them. See, visions are inspiring, goals are motivating, accomplishments are exhilarating. I love all of that. And it's all important. It's part of what we're doing as a team. But none of them are meaningful and worthwhile without the people that are a part of them, right? Like you can't go very far on your own. You can't go very far without a team. And so we need people around us. And so the first culture champion behavior that I would encourage you to embrace is identify a strength of one of your team members and tell them this week, right? If we want to believe that people are the point, we need to make sure that we're actually telling them. And so this week, this is something that you can do, something very tactical. I want you to think about your team. What are their strengths? What do they bring that you really, really rely on and value and need from them? And then I want you to make a point of actually telling them. So this is just a fun exercise to do. Pick somebody on your team and go tell them and thank them for what they do. Hey, I really appreciate, John, how you are so intentional with our spreadsheets and the details of the data so that we have the right information to be able to take action. I really appreciate, Sue, how you come into every room with just positivity and you're curious about how everybody is doing. I appreciate that you shape the experience and the environment when you come in because you come in with so much positivity, right? It could be anything, but think about your team members, identify one thing you appreciate about them and tell them to their face. If it's got to be virtual, face-to-face, do that. But make a point of telling them and thanking them specifically for what they do and why you value it. Second, culture champion behavior is lead yourself well. Now, I talk about this a lot. Self-leadership is the secret weapon of successful leaders. I deeply believe that. I don't know that it'll ever change because it just keeps getting more and more true the longer I live and lead. Nothing in our culture teaches us to lead ourselves, though. Like if you think about it, from the time you're born, everybody's directing your next steps, telling you when to walk, talk, tie your shoes, when to go to school, what to learn in all those years at school. I mean, everybody is kind of directing your steps. And then you graduate college and you get your first job. And then all of a sudden, like, it seems like nobody cares, right? It seems like nobody cares what you do next. And that can be debilitating for a lot of young leaders when they come into the workplace. Is that they're waiting for somebody to give them that pathway for growth. I hear this all the time from young leaders or from leaders in organizations who are saying they keep asking for their growth pathway or their development pathway. And it's because they've been conditioned to do that. They've been conditioned to expect that somebody will give me the path. So the thing I want you to hear, and every leader at every level, is great leaders don't wait for someone else. Great leaders don't wait for someone else. I want to tell you a story really quickly of back in my early to mid 20s. I was growing quite a bit. And I was, this was after the, like, you've got to love people to lead them conversation. But I had kind of hit a plateau from a promotion standpoint. Like I was kind of in a role that I needed to stay in for a few years to just keep growing. But I was eager to grow and I felt like I had hit a lid. And so a good friend of mine and I decided, hey, let's just pick a leadership book and read it together. And so we started doing that every Friday after a Friday lunchtime. We would go to the local Chili's restaurant, super glamorous. We were on, entry level leader budget. And we would go to the local Chili's restaurant and we would discuss a chapter of the book and we would tell each other what we saw or what we learned. And we would give each other feedback on whatever principle we were reading about. And you guys, it was one of the biggest growth moments in my leadership journey. We did it on our own time. We did it with our own dollars. And then all of a sudden leadership got wind of what we were doing and they began to fund it. And then it ended up that there were like 20 of us that were getting together over lunch in the office. And the company would pay for our books. We were paying for our own lunch, but the company would pay for our books. And it just grew into this book club that was this peer-to-peer learning environment in our company. It was a phenomenal experience. And to this day, one of the most important things that I've done for my growth and development. And so here's the culture champion behavior for you related to this point is I want you to determine what's important and find a way to do it. Determine what's important and find a way to do it, because you are antsy for growth. You want to keep growing, you want to keep learning, and you're looking for somebody else to tell you. You're looking for somebody else to solve it for you. Here's the hard truth. Nobody cares more about your growth and your development than you do. So you've got to own it. So determine what's important to you and then go after it. If it's, hey, I want to grow in this area, like for me right now, I want to grow in understanding AI. And so I have put together a list of resources, of people I want to learn from, things I want to do to keep learning about it so that I can keep leading through it. So determine what's important and find a way to do it. Culture champion behavior number 3 is take ownership. Take ownership. I had a leader reach out to me, kind of a mid-level leader in an organization. And she was noticing kind of a decline in engagement, and there was significant turnover. She was discouraged. The team was discouraged, just a little hopeless. And this is somebody who's kind of mid-level leader. So she, was evaluating these things and noticing that there were some issues in their culture. And she took it to senior leadership, and they were like, yeah, we kind of see it, but they didn't give it a lot of weight or, kind of concern at that moment. And in their defense, maybe there were other key priorities that they were looking at, but this leader couldn't get over the issue. And so she decided to take ownership for what she could control, which was her team. She said, you know what I can do is I can try to help influence the culture and the dynamics within my team. So she began just with her direct reports. She began to address their concerns. Even if she couldn't solve them, she was acknowledging them and trying to understand them. She was clarifying responsibilities where she could. If there was confusion, she was doing her best to provide clarity. She was defining values for their team, taking the organizational values and then applying that directly to their team to give them more understanding of this is how we work together. She built trust by inviting feedback, by starting the conversations. She was building trust. And she just created more opportunities for connection to kind of shore up some of the gaps. They had been doing a lot of remote work, and they had kind of a hybrid team, and they were lacking some of the connection that had used to be a key part of their team dynamics. And you guys, her team became a standout in that organization. All of a sudden, senior leadership is looking at her going, hey, your team has less turnover. They're more productive. They're more engaged. They seem to enjoy their job more. Like all of the symptoms of culture, the good symptoms of culture were showing up in her team. And it was an outlier to the rest of the organization. And so you can bet what the senior leaders did, right? They said, okay, whatever you're doing over there, we need to do across the whole organization. So leaders, I want you to focus on what you can control. And here's your behavior. Here's your action step for this one. I want you to think about, what does your team look like at its best? It's one of my favorite questions to ask related to culture. What does your team look like at its best? What do we look like? What are we doing? What are our behaviors? How do we feel? How do we sound? And then whatever the answer is, I want you to just be that. Right? I want you to just be that, determined to show up every day being the best of your organization. And I promise you, it will stand out, it will be countercultural, and it will make a difference. Imagine this. Imagine if every person on your team just chose to show up representing the best of your organization. Your culture would be radically different, wouldn't it? If everybody just took ownership of saying, hey, I want to show up reflecting what we look like at our best, what we value, what we believe, what is important to our organization, even if that's been written down or not, which I highly encourage. It should be written down. That's part of the framework. But you know intuitively what you look like at your best. Just choose to show up and be that. Okay, number 4, communicate intentionally. Communicate intentionally. Guys, we do surveys for organizations of all kinds, all sizes. And repeatedly, when we do employee engagement surveys and we get the results back, communication is typically the top of the list of issues, right? Like we just are notoriously bad at this. But here's what I want you to think about. Communication is an act of respect. And when we think of it that way, we become more intentional in our communication. If you think about it, some of the times you get frustrated when you don't have the information that you need, or you don't feel like senior leadership communicated to you in a way that helped you do your job well, or you had the right information at the right time. You felt disrespected, didn't you? Like that's kind of at the heart of communication issues, is feeling a lack of respect. And so here's 3 questions. This is your behavior for this culture champion behavior. Here's 3 questions that I want you to focus on. I want you to ask every time you're about to make a decision, take action on something. I want you to think, who needs to know this? When do they need to know it? Or what do they need to know? And when do they need to know it? So let me say those 3 again, since I botched them. Who needs to know? What specifically do they need to know? And when do they need to know it? If you think about those 3 questions before you take action on something, you will demonstrate respect to your coworkers. What you're doing is you're just slowing yourself down long enough to be thinking intentionally about how this impacts your coworkers. And friends, this is revolutionary. Again, imagine if every person on your team just did that. Asked those 3 questions before they made decisions or before they took action. They would be pausing long enough to go, oh, this is going to impact this person, so they need to know this. This is going to impact this person, so they need to know this, and they need to know this by this time. Because a lot of times we'll think of it at the very last minute, but now we've created stress for the other person because they're now having to scramble because we didn't anticipate it in enough time to respect what it would take for them to do it. You see it? Powerful, 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 powerful things we can do that impact our cultures. Culture champions are champion communicators. And then the 5th thing that I'll tell you for today is know your why. Why do you do what you do? If you want to positively impact your culture at work, when you are leading and operating from a conviction about your reason, what your reason is for why you do what you do, maybe it's the mission of the organization, like you just love what you do and you love the purpose behind it. Maybe it's the opportunity to use your skills and strengths. You're in a job that just really plays to your strengths. Maybe you just are in a place that provides a good income and insurance for your family. And so, you know what, might not be your favorite job ever, but it's a job that allows you to take care of your family well. You could have a myriad of reasons. But when you know your why and you keep that front and center, then you engage and you show up differently. And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do, especially if you're a leader and you have influence over others in the organization, is connect the dots between what you do and the impact you have. Now do that for yourself. Connect the dots between what you do and the impact you have, right? There's a famous story that a janitor at NASA, when President John F. Kennedy was visiting NASA, he asked the janitor what he does. And the janitor says, I'm helping put a man on the moon. I'm helping put a man on the moon. Now he's sweeping hallways, but he knew he worked for an organization that was helping to put a man on the moon. And that's the purpose. He connected the dots for himself all the way through, that he was like, I'm a part of this. Even if I'm not the man going to the moon, I am a part of the organization that's making that possible. See, leaders, this is the kind of work we need to do both for ourselves and for our teams, is connect the dots so we see the impact that we have. And we need to keep that in front of ourselves because there's that famous axiom, vision leaks, right? Vision leaks. And so we have to keep that vision white hot in front of us and in front of others. So here were those 5 culture building behaviors. Again, whatever seat you're in the organization, you can take action on one of these. Believe that people are the point. Find somebody on your team, tell them what they're great at, tell them why you appreciate it. Do it this week. Number 2, lead yourself well. Where do you want to grow? Where do you want to keep learning? Recognize that nobody cares more about your leadership development than you. So get after it. Lead yourself well. Number 3, take ownership. Whatever you can. You can't fix everything. You're not responsible for everything, but whatever you do have responsibility for, take ownership and lead the best you can where you are. Number 4, communicate intentionally. Think through those questions. Who needs to know? What do they need to know? When do they need to know it? You start doing that, you will show respect to your coworkers and it will make a difference. And then number 5, know your why. Why do you do what you do? Connect the dots all the way through. Some days are boring and monotonous. Some days you're not doing exciting stuff. That's okay because it still has a massive impact. So we stay faithful. We keep doing the work. See, leaders, we get the remarkable privilege of helping shape the environment of the cultures we're a part of. So let's contribute in a way that makes our culture a place we're super proud to be a part of. Imagine what your organization would look like if everyone chose to be a culture champion. So I want to encourage you today. You have greater influence than you think. You are shaping culture more than you think. And if every person on your team chose to be a culture champion, your culture would change. All right, friends, I'm so glad you joined me today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of the Foresight team and what we do and how we just want to equip you to lead well and to build thriving teams so that you can accomplish the mission you're called to. So let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Share it with a friend. Share it with your team. Share it with somebody else on your team. If you're the leader, share it with your entire team and have a conversation around these culture building behaviors. And then if we can help, reach out. We would love to support you in building a culture that you're proud of. It takes work. It takes initiative. I gave you a starting point today, but there's so much more fun stuff we can do by actually building a culture operating system. So if you're in that space, if you're saying, Jenni, it's time, we've got to get serious about this. We keep putting it on the back burner, but we actually need to do the work. Then please reach out. Let us know how we can help. You can email us at info@getforesight.com, GET4SIGHT. And again, share this with a friend, leave us a review, and we will see you next time.